Dumela, Saumbona, Sakpase, Namaste, Upshin, Dubra Ota, Assalamu alaikum, Hotep, Buenas noches, bonsoir, and good evening. Welcome, everyone. My name is Doriel Larrier, the host of the Lott, Carey, Wise Salt Digital Couch, a word to the wise. Welcome to another episode. This is actually episode 18. Welcome to our chat where we have inspirational leaders from our Lott Carey community, whether it be our partners or our leaders within the convention, and we have a chat with them and get a word to the wise. So on behalf of our president, who is the Reverend Dr. Gina M. Stewart, our executive secretary treasurer, Reverend Emmett L. Dunn, first vice president, Dr. Jesse Williams, second vice president, Dr. James Victor, Reverend Dr. Angelita Clifton, who is the president of the Women in Service Everywhere, Reverend Dr. Brenda McBurrow, the first vice president, and Sister Lynette Richardson, the second vice president. We are so glad that you are here. Tonight's episode is sort of like a carryover. If you were with us during the convention, whether it be live or virtual, then you got to hear an amazing conversation about mentorship. Usually people think about mentorship as an elder counseling or giving advice to someone who is of their junior. But in this conversation tonight, we're going to sort of do a part two and chat with our guest for the evening, who will chat about how mentorship is both ways. Please welcome Reverend Dr. Danielle L. Brown.
Hello.
Hey, good evening. Good evening. Welcome.
How are you?
Welcome. We are fabulous. We're fabulous. So let's just take a little step back. And those of you who know Dr. Brown, excellent. Please make sure that you share it out, of course. Those who don't know, listen to why we've chosen her for our word to the wise for today. So, of course, today we're going to be engaging in a deeper discussion about biblical mentoring across the generations, the implications, the insight, and the impact to our church communities. A natural-born leader, Reverend Dr. Brown, has served in various capacities where she's worked to develop and implement ministry programs and strategies. With a passion for mentoring and assisting in the development of faith and community leaders, Dr. Brown served and has mentored in theological seminary, with faculty, and served on boards of trustees. Well, adding to her hat is as a co-mentor to the Pointer, Brown, Goodman Doctoral Fellows at Union Theological Seminary in Dayton, Ohio, as well as past moderator of the Raritan Association of the American Baptist Churches of New Jersey, where she served on the ordination committee. Let's hear from a mentor of the young and the younger at heart, Dr. Danielle Brown, how the Bible actually sets up systems and strategies for mentoring, coming alongside others to share for the growth of the kingdom. Oh, wait, we also have to celebrate. This is actually her 1-year anniversary because last year in August, she was elected as the 10th senior pastor of the Shiloh Baptist Church in Plainfield, New Jersey. But you know, there's something else special with that. She is the first woman to hold that position since the church's founding in a very interesting year, 1908. I'm just saying. Welcome, Dr. Brown. So tell us, how did you even get started with this love for mentoring?
Well, I think that I was well mentored throughout my life. I've had great coaches and people who have come alongside me to help in my development. And so I just like to pay it forward. I think that we should be for others, not only what we had, but what we wish we had as we kind of look back over our journeys. And so this is what I have come to. That's how I've come to kind of love it. I guess I've always been a big sister or a mentor or someone that has journeyed with people in various ways. I think some things are just kind of part of our DNA or how we're fashioned, right? That we're inclined to do certain things and respond, right, to the world around us in certain ways. And for me, mentoring has been one of those things.
So in your development, and I'm sure the organizations, whether they be civic or social, someone has said to you, along the path that you need more than just one mentor. Like a mentor isn't not necessarily from, let's say, cradle to the next life. About how many mentors do you think, or how many aspects of life do you think you have a mentor in?
Several. But there's different, I think, levels to this. Scripture says that you have many teachers, right? But you have not many fathers. You have but one father, right? You have many teachers, you have one father. So I think that there are levels. There are people who have mentored me in things, or different skills to help build certain skills or expertise. When I was playing sports, I had coaches, and they were mentors in their own right, right? But in terms of my life, right, that people that I'm accountable to for my life, that pool is much smaller. But I think that we have mentors in a range of places, a range of ways, a range of just depending on where your life is and where it's going, and what you're doing in the season that you're doing it. You can have models who will serve or be mentors in those areas. So I guess to answer your question, it's not limited to one mentor. There may be mentors who will mentor you for a season, but then there are also the people that will journey with you for a lifetime.
Precisely. Excellent. Thank you for sharing that. So I do want to give just a teeny bit of housekeeping. Actually, you already see the chat sort of popping up. If you are desiring of leaving a question or asking a question, or even, as I say, I need to have my stream team. So my stream team are the people who take poignant points that we speak about. Sometimes we're not even thinking about them, but they sort of flow, and they're really right there. And in the church world, it's one of those things that'll say, "Ooh, that'll preach." So I need people to sort of type that into the chat, and then I'll actually pull them up. And if it's a question, I'll definitely pull it up so we can engage that in the conversation as well. So thank you for sharing about a variety of mentors, and not just mentors for different skills or different areas of your life, but also different seasons, right? Somebody could sort of start off with you. Case in point, when you mentioned being a big sister, more often than not, those scenarios are when you are, let's say, a teen, a young adult, and particularly if you're on a college campus. And so you're given a big sister or a big brother to coach and guide and walk alongside you for that period of your teen, and into young adulthood. Sometimes those mentoring relationships continue after, but there are moments where you sort of outgrow, or you need the person to do the next thing. Mm-hmm. So now let's sort of shift to how the paying it forward. You talked about paying it forward, and we have this auspicious task to pay it forward to Generation Next. And I really like that term, Generation Next, because it does not quantify with a particular age group.
Right.
It's just who's right behind you, right? Mm-hmm. Who's coming after you. So if you are young, however young is, and whoever is, let's say, 5 to 10 years younger than you, that's Generation Next. If you are the younger, again, who's ever 5 to maybe 10 years, or even 2 or 3 years. And then I had a conversation just today with someone that said, the person is approximately my age, but they said, I actually have mentors who are younger than me who mentor me. And I said, very interesting. I'm going to be talking about that just today. So now let's take a look at the Bible, and how the Bible is fashioning, or has already fashioned, some strategies, some examples of mentorship, and how we're going to take that look at mentorship for Generation Next. So why do you believe rethinking about Generation Next and appreciating that you're never too young or too younger to be mentored, and how is that important to kingdom building?
Well, one, because as long as we're alive, right, there's still purpose for us. As long as there's breath in our bodies, there's something that God wants us to do. And not just that, but as long as we're alive, we're in this process of discipleship, right? This process of growing and becoming right? More like God, more like Christ, more molded into the image of Christ. And so growth is a requirement, right? Part of that growing is the presence of mentors and people who will help to shape our lives. That's why the community of God, right, the family of God is important. That's why even God's self, right, exists in community. One God in three persons in community. And so there is, I think that generation next, I probably I'm not sure even about the generation piece, because then that also suggests that the mentees are only younger than us. But I'm in an interesting space now where, as a senior pastor, a good portion of my congregation is older. In fact, old enough to be my parents.
Right.
Their pastor, their guide, a mentor in faith, things of faith. I am to them. By the same token, there are people younger than I am who have been on the journey with me, who I also have kind of taken under my wing to mentor and to journey with and to help them to grow. So I don't think that you can put an age limit on the need for mentoring. I don't think that we could put an age limit on who we will mentor. That we should look to learn whatever it is that we can learn from whomever we can learn it from. And if that means that the person is older, great. If they're younger, great. We should all be looking to mentor and be mentored, because there's growth for all of us to do it. I think scripture, you know, it really has so many models. So when you ask that question, I'm like, there's a lot. We only have 1 hour to have this conversation. There's a whole lot.
Like I said, this can go past an hour.
One of the images, and when I think of mentoring that blesses me, is in the story of Elisha and his servant in Dothan. And I don't know if you recall the passage, but where Elisha and his servant are in Dothan, and the Syrian army surrounds them, and the servant starts tripping, and he's saying, "What shall we do?" And Elisha tells them, "Hey, those who are with us are more than those who are with them." And then Elisha prays, and Elisha asks God to open the servant's eyes so that he can see. And then the servant, he sees, and what he sees is that God has actually provided backup. And so I think that biblical mentoring knows its limits. Biblical mentoring understands that we as mentors, regardless of age, are just part of a plan, part of a destiny and journey that ultimately belongs to God. And I think that it also is a kind of symbiotic relationship where both parties, one of my mentors told me one time, my spiritual mother, and she's a lifer, but I was expressing how grateful I was for her role in my life. And she was like, "But I needed you as much as you needed me." And it was like, wait, I didn't see that. But I think it's also a symbiotic relationship that's rooted in purpose, that contributes, right, to the growth, the correction, the redirection, exploration of possibility, and all of these things. But biblical mentoring empowers, right? Every model of biblical mentoring, whether it is Naomi and Ruth, whether it's Elisha and the servant, whether it's Elijah and Elisha, whether it is Moses, Joshua, biblical mentoring, or even Jethro and Moses, and all of these images, all of these stories, Jesus and the disciples, right? Is like, hey, I'm with you for a little bit, but then I'm not going to be with you, and you're going to have to be able to stand, right, when I'm not with you.
Right.
And so biblical mentoring empowers us to use what God has given us, and to be able to flex and develop our own muscles in the world. But it doesn't disable us by limiting us to a carbon copy or just the perspective. I shared when Dr. Stewart and I were on the panel about a book that I was reading that she actually recommended, Along Obedience in the Same Direction. And in that book, it talks about the mentoring relationship, and they make reference to how when it comes to mentoring, we need an eye specialist rather than a painter, because the painter depicts the world as he sees it, but an eye specialist helps us to see it as it is. And I think that is the role largely of biblical mentoring, to empower us not only to see what our mentors see, but to be able to develop our insight, our discernment, and the muscles that we need to be able to see and deal in the world as we need to for our time, for our season, and really associated with our call as well.
So as soon as you started talking, even though I know that you are the senior pastor of the church and therefore, sorry, and you talked about how your constituents are older than you. When I heard you say that you are their mentors, and of course that relationship is you are in essence, let's say spiritually, a guide to them. Hearing that word mentor was really different because I just heard it in a different way. And I said, wow. So now I get it when, let's say, some of my elders or my aunties, my spiritual mothers or my church mothers, or church, uncles or fathers, when they ask me questions like, oh, Doriel, like, can you teach me how to do that? Or like, I see you doing that, a lot. I'd like for you to give me some insight. In my mind, I'm just, well, here's how you do it. It never dawned on me that is actually a version of mentoring because it's something that I can show them how to do. I'm just like, I can swing it to you. And I think that's great.
That we like try to institutionalize mentoring. And mentoring may not just be that maybe mentoring is also, it's formal and it is also informal, right? So some of the more organic things that happen in life can be models of mentoring. But we think that our mentors are just these established relationships that look like this, that, I'm going to meet with you on Monday at 6:00 every other week for an hour. And now that's the mentoring relationship. Right. But there's a lot of informal mentoring that happens in our lives, or even not just that we're on the receiving end of, but that we are on the giving end of, that I think that we don't necessarily give the level of, importance or value to that kind of informal mentoring that goes on probably more regularly than the formal kind of structural stuff as well.
Actually, so now thank you for sharing that. I'm actually now thinking about in the professional world, and how in the professional world, and whether it is females seeking another female in the industry or on the path and asking for their guidance or their insight. How can I, quote unquote, climb the corporate ladder? Or if it is, just someone who's at the top rank and it's a newbie, someone just coming in and they're looking for that professional mentorship or that guidance and insight, or it's going to like the networking event, right? And now I'm sort of just making all the parallels to the church, and how in the church it's the same thing. Well, I want to be a better missionary. So I want, the older missionaries will say, okay, you join, like in my church, it's called the Young Lights for Christ, or the Sunshine Band or whatever. And then you go from junior red to senior red to Young Lights for Christ, whatever it is, but you're growing in that. Mm-hmm. Choir work, same thing. Usher work, same thing. And so now all these parallels are definitely meshing together. No matter, you're right, it's not like the legal, right, every second Thursday at 10 a.m., but maybe it's the phone call, and now with social media, it's let me send you a text for encouragement. Let me send you a word of affirmation. Let me sort of provide some insight. Or I saw you do this. Have you thought about this? Did you know here's another resource? And those, yes, formal and informal, the coming alongside to the very, let's say, instructional, go to this event, check out this conference.
Right.
I'm reading this book, read it with me. That, yes. So now in essence, it's like we're broadening that concept of what mentorship looks like.
And even some of the things that are not, that kind of happen, the sitting around. I'm always amazed at how much stuff I learned just sitting around listening to grown people talk, right?
And listen, and you just be like this.
We've learned, right, about faith, about life, about how to navigate the world from sisters just sitting around and talking, right? And then knowing on a from the perspective of one who has been mentored, right? Knowing when to talk and when to just to sit by and listen and watch.
Wait, so let's throw this idea in. Let's throw this like a mother wit. You have two ears and
Right.
one mouth. Listen twice as much as you speak.
Yeah. And I love to talk, right? Because and I do, right? But and I'm also an extrovert. However, there are some settings that when God allows me to be in them, I don't do much talking because I'm listening and paying close attention to the ways that people carry themselves in certain settings and taking my cues from how they move and wanting to catch every pearl and that they may drop, right? Even if it's casual conversation or it's just whatever. I think that we should, when we're considering what mentoring looks like, we cannot undervalue the mentoring moments that are not formal, right? Those informal mentoring moments have so much power and value to our lives that I think that we've got to consider that mentoring too. And this fact that maybe even for the mentors that we kind of have in formal ways and that are established in formal ways, that people may not have time to always be present, that we've got to learn how to ask the right questions of our mentors, um, but also just when to kind of watch them, whether it's from up close or from a distance. Because I think that all of those things are also important, that people may not always have formal time to sit with you, to walk you through certain things and stuff, but it doesn't mean that their mentoring is not valuable if they don't have that time, if that makes sense.
It does. I'm actually learning. Some people don't know what they don't know. Some don't know what to ask because they've never been in this space to hear the words to ask.
Mhm.
And I'm learning for myself that naming the thing is important because there are certain folks who, whether it be social ebbs and flows, if they're new to a space and they don't know the mores and the paradigms of that space, it may be difficult. They know that they need something, but they don't know how to ask it. And so I'm learning to sort of like call a thing and then let people hear this is what I'm about to do. And so therefore, if you want to listen,
Yeah.
if you want to ask, but this is the thing I'm going to do. Simplest thing, I'm going to make, I don't know, mango curry, whatever. But if I say I'm going to make mango curry, then at least you know that's my end point, right? The end point. But if I just take out mangoes, you may think, oh, she's going to eat a mango. No, I'm actually going for something. Then the person can say, oh, well, I don't know how to make it. Can I watch? Or they can be like, oh, I know how to do. I'm just learning for myself because I've seen so many people, I'll be making the thing and they think it's one thing and they just go about their business. But then like, oh, I like mango curry. Well, didn't you just see me get the ingredient? But they didn't know that that's what I was doing. So I know for myself, naming the thing so that people kind of know what's going on and then they can choose, you want to watch, you want to participate, or you want to go about your business.
Right. Or this part, right? So on the purpose of mango curry, I'm not a cooker. I don't do all that stuff. But sticking around long enough to see what the end result is going to be.
But now let's talk about Generation Next. Some are thinking in such different levels that they don't know. Let's keep this as an example, that at some point they're going to need the mango curry. Mm. And they just like, I don't need that. And then here it is later on. And you're like, well, I was making it. You might have wanted to watch. I don't know. It's just an observation that I'm making. Yeah. You know, the meme of
it can be both and, right? But I think as those who are mentored, when I said stick around long enough to see what the end is going to be, I don't know that we live in a culture that deals well with relationship. right? That we want everything to be quick, and relationship does not. That's not it. It doesn't work that way. That there's no quick way of like, teach me all that you know and teach me in 3 months.
Right. It's not instant popcorn. It's not the microwave generation.
Like Karate Kid, you know, when Mr. Miyagi was teaching him how to play, you know, fight, they didn't go right to the mat. They went to the car and did what? Wax on,
wax on, wax on,
wax on, wax on. And so in these relationships, I think fundamentally, if we are going to be well mentored and if we are going to mentor well, then we've also got to be committed to process, right? Committed to process and hanging in there in these relationships until we can see from the point of gathering mangoes to the point of making mango and curry work together in a way that is something you want to eat, right? And that's important. And sometimes these relationships do take time to build, right? You've got to build trust, rapport. You got to get to know one another. And then if the mentoring relationship is working, because you are growing, right? If it's working, you're growing. If it's working, and like I said, a symbiotic relationship, your mentor is also growing as a mentor. And so we're changing that. Even as the journey is going on, we're also changing and impacting one another. And we've got to stick in there, like hang in there through the messiness, the vulnerability, all of that comes with being a mentor or a mentee, that gets us to, right, the point where, or the point for which that relationship existed in the first place, or whatever, right? Just that gets us to a place where we're better than where we are, where we've learned the thing, where we've acquired the skill, or what have you.
I want to bring up 2 points that I have not brought up yet. And thank you very much for the stream team who is just typing away. This is fabulous. So I've been popping them up onto the screen. So just to let you know, if you want your name to be seen, then you click the blue link that's at the top of your own page, and then it'll allow your name to be shown. If not, then we call you Facebook user. We don't want to call you that because, you know, this is the couch. We go by first names here. And so Dr. Clifton says, you get in trouble when you don't take time to observe how to navigate spaces. And thank you so much for just reiterating that, Dr. Angelita. And what I've learned is that some people don't know how to navigate the spaces. And it's not just, oh, you should know, or didn't you see? Sometimes they literally have to be kind of like hand-holded, like this, when you walk into this space, when you're in this convention, when you're in this conference, when you're with these people, you're not just going to, quote unquote, go bum rush them. You know, there is a way to approach, because some people have been shown, some people have not. Another statement was, and this is from a Facebook user, mentoring does not have to be a formal relationship, precisely. Here's another person. So I have mentors who do not know they are mentoring me. Ooh, I watch them from afar over time. I actually said that to somebody the other day. I had to let them know, you teaching me, you just don't even know you're teaching me. Thank you. And thank you. And yes, coaching. Yes, coaching. Thank you. So actually, let me just say to the Facebook user, the one who said that you have mentors who do not know they're mentoring you, I would say, and I'm sure Dr. Brown will probably concur, let them know that their life is ministering to you. Because everyone walks their own walk, but when you are told that the good that you're doing, because, you know, everybody's not perfect, but the good that you're doing is blessing and causing someone else to be polished, like a polished stone, it just reiterates for the person that what they're doing is blessing someone else. So I don't know. What are your thoughts on that, Dr. Brown?
I think that's important, that, you know, letting people know that they're blessing you, that in some way the work that they're doing or the way that they're being is making a difference. That's important. I just believe in gratitude and expressing gratitude and appreciation for the people that have made a difference, right, in our lives.
Okay. Now, you know what? That was our first question, Dr. Brown. See? This is going to go real quick. So, and maybe you've touched on this. So if you can share a time in your pastoral relationship when you were both mentor and mentee. How did that bless you? And why is it an important component for biblical mentoring?
Um, gee, where I was both the mentor and the mentee.
Okay, wait, hold, let me help you with that. So actually, in the beginning of our conversation, you were talking about how in your, again, your current role, you have people who are biologically your elders, and you inferred that, you know, you're sharing with them or you're guiding them. And at the same time, because you said it's symbiotic, which means there's a give and a take, there's a push and a pull, there's a dance, I think of mentorship as a dance, as, you know, whether it's tango, what have you, but there's a give, there's a move, there's a push and a pull. And so as you're giving, and you're not just dumping into someone, but you're sharing, and then there's a response, because you can't continue to give if there's no response that says, yes, I like that, or that's good
I
for
think, and you noted, well, this particular season, right, in my pastoral, that's what you asked,
Yes.
like, so this season. And I think it happens every day with myself and our assistant pastor, Reverend Shiloh Thorpe. Reverend Thorpe is about 35 years older than I am. And in every way, she yields to me as her pastor, listens, and you know, she'll give the feedback, like, Pastor, when you preach this, or when you said this, or you're modeling this. But by the same token, she mentors me in areas of wisdom, patience, pace, balance, right? Some of the things that there's what the scripture says, that God used the young because they're strong, but the old because they're wise.
Yes,
And so there are strength things, right? That I mentor her in, but there's wisdom things that she mentors me in. And it does not compromise our formal roles, if that makes sense,
it
right?
does.
Institution, because it is a give and take. Then, by the same token, we have a one of our younger employees, who actually is the granddaughter of Reverend Thorpe, who is getting ready to come on staff as our director of administration. For as much as I pastor Jalen, she also teaches me things about technology and managing media and marketing, and, you know, just perspectives that are beyond my own, right? That are beyond my generation, and even, you know, at this point, I'm getting a little seasoned. You know, I just keep on living, and I'm getting a little seasoned, but also keeping me aware of the pulse of the generation, right, that is coming behind me, in matters of technology and how those things may apply to the ministry that I've been called to do. So I think it happens all the time. And especially if you're someone who's wired to learn and always kind of looking to learn and grow, you will always be in positions where you find folks that you can learn something from.
It's being, I see it as being like a magnet.
Yeah.
Especially when you just said, if you are the person who is looking to learn, wants to grow in a particular area, you become like super magnetized. And there are some people who are watching who know who understand why I'm saying that, because I've been I feel like I've been in that position in the past, like, I don't know, maybe probably 2 or 3 years, where I'm just like, wow, I'd like to learn that. Someone calls up and says, hey, I'm doing this. I'm like, did you just hear me say that? Because I can learn it from you, and vice versa. So yes, thank you, Dr. Clifton, a sponge. Yes, but if you are acting like a sponge, there is water to be sopped up.
Right.
So actually, so those people who are watching, this is a great moment. If there is someone who has directly mentor you, you have a formal direct mentor-mentee relationship, and you would like to give them a shout out right now, drop it in the comments below, and I will actually pull them up, because Dr. Clifton sort of started this, let's call it a waterfall. She said that Dr. Stewart, Dr. Elaine Flake, Dr. Hale, Dr. Copeland, and Dr. Brown have all mentored me from afar. So grateful to observe. So if anyone else wants to shout out their mentors, go for it. Let's give them their flowers. Like right now, it's okay. Beautiful, beautiful. So let's go to the next question, which is, how do you create a healthy environment that is safe, that is a sacred space, conducive for biblical mentoring?
Well, one, I think that for starters, it is important for the mentor and the mentee to know who they're dealing with. So when we're talking about safe spaces, now we're talking about mentoring relationships that are a little more intimate, right? That you're in closer proximity. Because if you're just kind of being mentored from a distance, it doesn't matter how safe the space is, because it's from a distance, and so you create the boundaries around that. Or just naturally, there are boundaries around that. But these safe spaces, speak more to more intimate, mentoring relationships. And so I think it's important for both mentor and mentee to know who they're dealing with, because these relationships have got to be filled with grace. Grace to accept one another where we are, and deal with one another until a party or both parties get to where we need to be.
Right.
And then they also have to have this willingness to understand where we are at each stage in that process. I think also drawing a line on what the mentee and mentor will accept and what they won't on the front end helps to preserve a safe space and healthy environment in the mentoring relationship. So my mentor should be able to tell me to stop, to hush, to sit down. You are wrong. And my response to that be just as welcome in my mentor's affirmation as my mentor's affirmation.
Right. I want to interrupt you on that, because and this is what I heard from when you said this at convention, and something really pricked my spirit, and I have to repeat, I have to bring it to light.
Okay.
The mentor and mentee relationship, you have to give, you have to give the person the pen to say, I allow you to write me up. Let's call it professional. I give you permission to call me out on my stuff. Mm-hmm. And there is a fine line. So the moment that you said intimate relationship, right? And it's there's a closer proximity. Yeah. If that relationship of mentorship does not allow, like you said, somebody to be like, okay, you know what? Yeah, go sit down, because that was jacked up. Or you really realize how you impacted someone when you said that? Some people are like, well, who are you talking to? You can't. Then you know what? Then maybe let's redefine what this mentor-mentee relationship is. How close do you want me to be? How do you want me to what is it, to sign on to all your stuff? Do you want me to blow smoke? Do you you look good, or do you want me to polish you?
Right.
And I think that is so key. How close do you want me to be? How do you really want to grow? Because if that's not there, somebody's feelings going to get hurt. Somebody's going to be like, I'm not speaking to you anymore.
Right.
So I just want to.
That's important. And then, asking yourself, do I really want to be mentored?
Right.
Right. And sometimes I don't know that we know what we're signing ourselves up for, or signing ourselves on to when we say that we want a mentor or a certain mentor. And so I think defining that, right? What do I need this mentor for? And sometimes I don't know if that always is something that you define together, or some soul searching that some of us have got to do on the front end, right? That what do I want this relationship to yield, right? What fruit do I want this mentoring relationship to yield? And if growth, personally, spiritually, is one of them, there are hard conversations that are going to have to be had. And you have to indeed, right, give your mentor permission. And then not just give them permission, but then do the work of yielding yourself, right, to their guidance. I wouldn't have a mentor that I can't trust to tell me the truth about me.
Right. I want to just throw this in there. Now, this is this is a disclaimer. Let me just say this out the bat. So this may be uncomfortable for some people. What you just said reminded me of those who are in 12-step programs.
Mm.
Hold on to that for a minute. Those who are in 12-step programs, if you know anybody, if you know anybody, if you are in a 12-step program and you have a sponsor,
Yeah.
your sponsor is the one to call you out on your stuff. They remind you of your steps. Now let's make the parallel to church, right? And I'm going to bring up a statement that somebody that mentioned church hurt. They're able to call you out on your stuff. They're able to remind you of your steps. They make sure that you come to your meetings, all of that stuff. And they keep you in check, but you give them permission to polish you.
Mm-hmm.
That relationship is similar to this moment. But again, the relationship of a sponsor and a sponsee, the sponsee says, I know that you're going to keep me in check, and I'm giving you that right. In mentor-mentee relationships, more than likely, if it's professional, help me get to the next step. If
Right.
it's within the church, it's basically, I want to be a better me. I want to be a better me within the Christian world. Now, I'm going to bring this statement up, which is very kin. How do you build relationship when church hurt affects mentor or being a mentor or being a mentee? Now, wait, there's another question, a statement that connects with that. Here we go. So the better question is, in what way or ways do we need to understand how church hurt affects mentoring relationship? I think it's really like, be clear, say what you're here for, say what you're here to do or what you want. And also then acknowledge and say, look, somebody told me, like the color red that I had on at this event was just too bright and now I'm not coming. But then the mentor should be like, okay, are you still going to eat tomorrow?
Okay. So I think that it's important to define church. So I wrestle with that term church hurt, right? Mm-hmm. Because I fundamentally believe that wherever people are, right? So the same people that hurt you in the context of the church are the same people that hurt you in the context of the high school playground, right? Same dude that hurt you in a relationship. And we get upset when it happens in the context of the church and say, throw the whole church away. But when Bubba,
that right there,
hurt you, right? You keep going back to Bubba, right? No, I'm kidding. No, I'm not kidding. I'm telling the truth, right? But I'm joking.
That's why we gotta sip the tea.
Or when your friends hurt you in the context of friendship outside of church, they can do the same thing that the usher did, but you'll make up with those friends and move along, right? But then when it comes to church, it's like, oh, this is church hurt, and so never again will I ever, right? We completely alter the way that we engage church people. So I think instead of labeling it church hurt, maybe hurt, right? Like relational hurt impacts us. And we've got to do the work of healing, right? That making the decision that no matter where the hurt, and I say this because I don't believe that the only people hurt that we have experienced has been in the church. Right. But the pain that we've experienced over the courses of our lives at the hands of people in general also impact the way that we engage the people that we see in church, the way that we engage the people that we encounter at work, right? Even in the workplace, there are people that hurt us at work, but we don't say throw the whole job away, right? We just keep showing up, and now we'll figure out a way to make do until we can, get through it. So I think that we've got to look at the whole of our lives. It's important. I have this saying that I've been saying for several years, that wholeness is holy, right? That holiness is not only right, but holiness requires wholeness. And so if you are not whole, right? WHOLE, then you are probably struggling with holiness, right? Because holiness
Ooh.
is not just this idea of don't drink, don't smoke, don't do the, the stuff that makes us clutch our pearls. Holiness is to be whole.
So then that's but then that's
Healthy. And
right.
so
That's a lifelong journey then.
it is a lifelong journey. But as we are developing our relationships, whether they're mentoring relationships in the church, outside of the church, we have got to do the work of wholeness, right? Constantly looking at ourselves, observing where the wounds are, right? Whether they happened in church or not, and assess their progress, right? So maybe over here, I need some more, what is it called? The stuff that you put on it's in the brown bottle.
Peroxide?
No, not the peroxide.
Mercurochrome?
Not Benadryl.
In the brown bottle?
Put under the Band-Aid. I guess
Citrusine. But citrusine?
Whatever it is. Iodine or what have you.
Okay.
Iodine. And so if this needs iodine, then I'm not going to engage myself in relationships that are going to take the scab off while it's infected. So nice. Wholeness informs me that now may not be the time to engage in an intimate kind of mentoring relationship if it's going to trigger pain that I have unresolved. I think we've got to get away from this idea that we are forced to do things beyond our capacity to, or engage with other people in ways that compromise our wholeness. If that makes sense, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes we just need to wait out and heal a little more.
Right.
Answer that question, that if we are still hurting about people interactions that have gone adverse, then we've got to do the work of healing to the point where that wound is, has progressed and it's healing enough that we can handle or manage or have the capacity to engage in those spaces and in those ways. Does that make sense?
It does. So I'll give a very practical analogy. Let's just say that somebody is struggling with let's say an addiction. Let's just say it's cigarettes. Let's keep it simple. Cigarettes. And they've been off of it, their lungs have been clearer, let's just say by the minute, by the hour, by the day, what have you. But then they go on a trip, and the people who are on the trip, they go into like a cigar bar.
Right.
I'm not there yet. Like, you're a month, you're 2 months, you're 3 months, you may not be there yet. Some other people, if they're out of it for 2 or 3 years, they can be like, you know what? I'm good. I can go, but I may not be able to go and sit down there for like an hour.
Right.
So just knowing where you are on the journey and saying that to people.
Right. With emotional and relational trauma, that some things you just can't do, and that's okay. Right. Mm-hmm. It's okay if someone wants you to mentor them up close, but you're hurting. There's some things that you still have to work through. It's okay to say that. But you know what? Right now, but how's that be in a year? Let's talk. Let's talk in a year. Right. And then sometimes there are points even in the reverse, because I think Dr. Clifton's question there also was about, when church hurt or this relational hurt or what have you, also makes you skeptical about being mentored or developing relationships with people out of fear that if I am vulnerable with this person, I'm going to get hurt again or burned again. Yeah. So I think that being prayerful and then making sure that you are doing the healing work, right? The work that you've got to do to heal so that you can get to a place where it's cool for you to be vulnerable with another person, and baby steps, right? That process, maybe the first day you don't put it all on the line, right? With your relationships over time, there are things that you may share or ways that you will be more vulnerable with people over the course of time. Even if we look at what happens naturally, right? When you get
Right.
to meet someone, they don't know all your business the first day you meet them. Some of y'all might tell somebody all you, but as people get to know you and you kind of get to know them and you test out the waters and you see that, wait a minute, this is safe space. And then of course, everything that we do must be bathed and soaked and lathered in prayer. We can't, the Holy Ghost will keep you safe, right? Talking to God will keep you safe. It'll the voice of God, the Spirit of the living God will help to guide us and direct us, not just in where to be and who to be with, but even how to be as we are in those places and with those people.
Excellent. I want to bring up a couple of really great comments. So I'll go to comments related and then I'll do shout outs. So Dr. Clifton says emotional injury happens everywhere. We carry it in a knapsack. Yep. Your quote that if you're not whole, you're probably struggling with holiness. And here's a really, really great one. So self-examination / awareness helps manage your emotions. So your emotions don't manage you. Excellent. And then there are 2 shout outs that it would be really beautiful. I have to say, and everyone adores this woman. She was the first person on our digital couch, and that is Deacon Mary Hall. So someone is saying thank you to Deacon Mary Hall for your mentoring over the years. What a blessing you have been to so many women. That is absolutely amazing. And then actually, Dr. Clifton says Dr. Marilyn M. Harris.
New Jersey.
Okay. Shout out Jersey, folks. Has been incredibly encouraging with lots of love. And I think this last one is really keen as well. And that is your life becomes a canvas to your mentor. Your life becomes a canvas to your mentor. Oh, look at that. Look at that. So we've definitely discussed about Generation Next, and Generation Next again could be someone who is our peer. It could be someone who is biologically a junior to us or a senior. It can cross paths of roles and titles, like in your case, where again some of the people who you are mentoring, again are older than you, and what you bring in terms of current skill and energy, like in the suggestion between, or the situation between yourself and your, is it your co-pastor or assistant pastor?
Assistant pastor.
Your assistant pastor. But then in wisdom, she brings the probably, okay, pace yourself, right?
Yeah.
Or are you taking some time out for yourself? Remember to do that. You can't be ripping and running 7 days a week. Even Jesus, the Lord rested on a day, and that's key. And then also that these relationships, I'm just sort of like recapping, the relationships have to be intentional, right? They have to be intentional. There have to be some clear parameters.
Yeah.
They have to be some boundaries, and those boundaries don't always have to be established on day one, because you don't necessarily know how far and how deep and how wide the relationship is going to be. But over time, it's like peeling back the onion, right? Layer after layer, or the rose. Let's make it a little more pleasant smelling. Peeling back the parts of the rose. Actually, I have to admit that I was, how did they say? I was this many years old when I realized that if you peel back all of the petals of a rose, that the inside there's like the iris and the sepal, and because I've always seen rosebuds that were closed.
Yeah,
I literally in the last like 6 or 7 years pulled back all the petals and said, "Oh my goodness, there's something in there." But that's like a relationship. Mm-hmm. There are some people who just stay guarded. Yeah. They stay guarded. Sometimes when you stay guarded in a mentor-mentee relationship, you're not going to get to whatever that next level is, because you're like, nah, I ain't telling you that. But if not that you have to tell everybody everything, but if you want to see growth in a particular area, you got to feel comfortable. You got to be led. You got to feel that it's a sacred, safe space with the other person, that your business not going to be out in the street.
Right.
But it's going to be.
I think those also are ground rules that need to be clear in the mentoring relationship. For the ones that are up close, like more intimate, that listen, when we are talking, this is safe space.
Right. Right. Name it. That's what I'm saying.
And
Naming
right,
that
name
thing.
that thing that I'm talking to you, and this is confidential. Um, and it works in both ways, right? In both directions.
Excellent. I want to bring up these last few points. Yes, Dr. Clifton says that's why biblical mentoring is so important. And of course, yes, yes, yes to Deacon Hall. We love you, Deacon Hall. We love you. So thank you, Dr. Brown, for sharing your insights. We're so grateful for your investment in WISE.
Thank you
Beautiful
for having me.
images. And here's another shout out, and this is especially keen at this time. So Dr. Clifton says, "Thank you to Sister Carol Muhammad. We are still your name is on our lips in prayer." Sister Deborah Garner, Sister Antoinette Winslow, and Sister Ida Finney were the role models in WISE. Blessings all to the legacy that all of these women have left and continue to work within the WISE family. Any final words, Dr. Brown, to the WISE community?
Keep doing the great work that you're doing, empowering women and advocating for women and praying for women all over the world. And be great mentors, and let's be mentored great, so that I think we can all become what God has called us to be, however, whatever that is, because we all have been called to something. But it's going to take us, right, investing in one another and receiving from one another to get there. And so thank you all for having me tonight. I appreciate this opportunity. Shout out to Dr. Stewart and Dr. Clifton, and to you, Sister Lania. It's just been so great to just be here in conversation with you.
Excellent. So on that note, we wish everyone well. Again, this was sort of like a part 2. We had to grab Dr. Danielle from the stage in the biblical mentoring conversation that she was with Dr. Clifton and Dr. Stewart during the convention a few weeks ago. We were so blessed and just moved. And I literally ran to the stage and I said, Dr. Clifton, like we need to have her for the next, digital couch for WISE. And she's like, okay, I'll ask her. And so I'm standing there like this. I literally was like, I hope she says yes. I hope she says yes. I hope she's, so thank you so much for saying yes. Thank you so much for being with us. And for those people who are still watching, we really do pray that you've gotten something out of this. We hope that you were able to take some of the gems that were deposited into your mind, into your spirit. And if it's something that literally you think of after we end this, drop it in the chat and we can always respond to it at a later date. Just a reminder, those people who are, of course, part of Lott Carey WISE Salt in the Facebook group, you know that we have some upcoming events that are really, really fabulous. So please keep a watch out for them. Those people who are watching on other channels, the other Facebook page as well as YouTube, please make sure that you are inviting people to subscribe to the Lott Carey TV YouTube channel, because there is some other amazing content that is there. Those people who are connected to me and are watching me on my page, please come on into the Lott Carey WISE Salt. As long as we know who you are and know your amazing intent, we will gladly let you in. And just make sure that you're also keeping abreast of. Today is Thursday. We do these shows on Thursdays and the first Thursday of the month. And so, of course, Dr. Danielle and I are in Black because we stand in solidarity for Thursdays in Black, where we are stronger together. We are standing in solidarity with ecumenicals across the world that gender-based violence must be eradicated, that it is wrong, that no is no. And so we constantly are in prayer and we say the names of women across the world who are being mistreated because of their role and their gender as women. So thank you so much. Thank you so much for being a part, for standing with us. And I think there's 2 more comments. Oh, here we go. Let me just pull these up. Now you guys are Impact Together. Thank you. So Impact Together is the name of the text that we're going to be reading in September, and it's Biblical Mentoring Simplified, and it is on Amazon. Peace and blessings. We will see you later. Have a good day.
Good night.